What's up? Back with another video. I hope you're well. Today we are looking at Mighty Jamie, who has come out with another video now responding to Ronaldo Gouws. If you've been watching this channel, some few videos ago I did a video where we had a look at Ronaldo Gouws making comments on Mighty Jamie, his intellect, his ability to find facts, suggesting that he's a fake intellectual or something like that.
Before I show how dishonest Mighty Jamie is, I just want you to have a look. So this is his channel. It says key analysis, relevant commentary, Mighty Jamie TV. Now, if you just look, you can always see that he's wearing.
Hey, Mighty, there's your channel, man.
He's always wearing. Got a background of a lab and then a lab coat. I mean, tell me how you know, unashamedly you are using scientific backgrounds to make yourself look more intelligent. I mean, this is the height of insecurity. When, I mean, look at it. And it looks like it's always the same color t-shirt with the same color tie, and then the lab coat, and then the background of, you know, like he's a scientist. I mean, this is how he's trying to fool you. He's trying to fool you by going, hey, look, no, I'm in a lab and I'm wearing a lab coat. You need to trust what I say because I'm knowledgeable. That is the first, like, sort of rule within grifting, is fool people to allow them to think that you're intelligent. And as I've stated, you know, the one thing that Jamie Mighty should be good at is political commentary, because that is what he proclaims that he's good at. Right? But if you look at the election results and how wrong he was, like, I mean, being 5 to 10 to 15 percentage points out just on the top 4 parties, like, you need to be blind and deaf to not, like, even get into the realm of what the election results actually were.
And so we are now at this stage in time where Mighty Jamie has had something to say about that. And what an exciting time for me. Those who watched the video where I was watching Ronaldo giving commentary on Jamie, you all would have seen me laughing. What you may not be understanding there is that I was appreciating a moment where it seemed like I have set things in motion. Have you ever heard about the butterfly effect? Have you ever heard about one little movement causing a ripple that then changes and causes things to cascade and rapidly change? And then when you look at what has ultimately happened and you realize that it all started with a very small action, that's what I was feeling. I was feeling the giggles inside, feeling happy for bringing these two guys head to head again, so that they can now start to speak towards each other, so that our politics is not just one where we are just looking at the subject matter and offering our biased opinion, but one that is rigorous and rugged, where, you know, we jump across. You understand? If you've ever watched Piers Morgan, where he has those split screens and he has like 4 people all going at it, you'll understand the taste of discussions that I'd like to have take place. And so now Mighty Jamie has offered a response, although a slight one. So first video, this happened earlier in his video before he actually addressed Ronaldo Gouws. Let's listen to him here affirm or give us a hint to the fact that there's a coordinated right-wing media group that is trying to build a certain narrative. They are producing it, and there's a customer, there are ears that want to hear such, and that is the United States and the Trump administration. So we have a film crew, we have a director, we have the cinematographer, we have the sound guy, we have the actors, we have the wardrobe, and a show is being put on. You know, this country is being worked, is being cooked. And he says that these people might be the Free Market Foundation, the IRR, whom I've spoken about recently, Rob Hersov, and Elon Musk. So let's listen to him right here.
I want to have a broader discussion about the communication strategy of the right wing, South African right wing, towards Americans about South Africa, because it's clear there's a collective and coordinated effort right now. Whether you're looking at, you know, Institute of Race Relations, AfriForum, Free Market Foundation, Rob Hersov, Elon Musk, it looks like people are working in tandem to actually create a narrative in the international community around South Africa and about South Africa.
Now you hear that? So let's jump now to the moment where he actually addresses Ronaldo Gouws. Let's listen to that together.
So they wrote this book on informal logic, which explains, and informal logic is not it's not informal like it's wearing a t-shirt and jeans and Crocs at a wedding. No, It's just not the mathematical logic, but it's still logic that you need to be aware of. So they talk about 3 fallacies here that I think are operational in what is being done.
So, in these fallacies, he's going to address one that you will hear is related to Ronaldo and how he decided to do his video on Mighty, saying that Mighty Jamie is not an intellectual. And you'll hear he takes quite some offense to Ronaldo being a white guy who is seemingly engaging Mighty Jamie in this very typical, or what you'd say, racist, demeaning, condescending, supremacist way of saying, you're less intelligent, I am superior. So, let's hear this out.
By the way, there's some guy who was saying, no, this guy doesn't read this.
Ronaldo
Have you read
Gouws.
this when you... I don't want to deal with people who think that the way to engage a black person is to insult their intelligence. Right. So let's talk about the straw man fallacy. The straw man fallacy. The fallacy seeks to debate a weakened version of an argument presented. Rather than debating the real man, you choose to fight one made up of straw. So rather than going into the ring with Mike Tyson at his prime, you go into the ring with Trevor Noah. Now, Trevor, don't take this personally, my guy, but I think I could take you. I think, in a dark alley, Trevor comes and says, my man, Trevor, boy. So, I mean, but Mike Tyson, on the other hand, that's a different kettle of fish. If Mike Tyson sneezes in my direction, I'm going. If he sneezes with that little voice of his, like, bless you, Baba, I'm out of here. I'm gone. Point I'm making is that there's a difference between engaging a real argument as argued and taken in good faith and a distortion of the argument. So let's say, for purposes of example, we're having a discussion about video games and whether the video game Grand Theft Auto is good for young boys.
So, he's about to make an example where he's, of course, still referring to Ronaldo here. And he's explaining how Ronaldo has a way of taking a particular argument, charging it with emotion, taking the reduced, it's reductionism. That's what straw manning is. You reduce the big thing, big point that has been made by your opponent, and you just try to say, your point has a very small penis. Now I'm speaking about your point's penis instead of the point itself. Why? Because yes, the point is big, but it has a small penis, and that's something that you can actually grab onto. That is stick manning, or straw manning. And so he's saying Renaldo Gouws has done that to him. He's saying that, yo, dude, you know me. You know what I do out here. You know how I bring the stuff. You know how South Africans are still sleeping on this media. And I'm out here bringing the stuff, giving them the updates. And I say this because somebody came in the comments there and decided to go against Mighty and go against him as being a Zimbabwean, saying that he's interfering with our news. Shouldn't he be commenting on the news where he comes from, etc., etc.? And I just don't like that. I don't like that. Although that guy paid compliments to me and Bo Clement Manyatela and Bo Penuel and said that there's us who are South African, who are born and bred here, and we can give commentary towards our issues. Bro, I do nothing to touch Jamie and the amount of work that he's done, right? And me, myself, I'm a South African, but having done a bit of traveling outside the country, there's an ignorance that gets crushed by traveling. When you start to realize that this is planet Earth, I used to be subscribed to a mind of my own village. I have a way. Lord, help me out of it. I keep seeing my village and I want my villagers only. There's a man by the name of Chris Wyatt. I've been making content about him. This is a rebuttal argument against this guy who says Jamie should be paying attention to the news in Zimbabwe. The guy by the name of Chris Wyatt over there, he's speaking daily on South African news. I think his slogan is actually his show, and his slogan is South African news, an American look from outside looking in. That's his slogan. So you can hear that this is a man who has decided to engage himself in our issues, and there's nothing that can be done about it. And dude, I just want to make you realize that white people believe in something that we kind of ignore. We believe in freedom. They believe, man, in like a higher freedom on steroids, brother. This is like liberty. Take the word liberty. We speak freedom, freedom, freedom. There's a reason why they speak liberty. That's why there's a statue of liberty. Freedom, absolute freedom. It's freedom on steroids. It's the recognition of freedom and libertarianism and the freedom to go as far as choosing to have 3 genders if you want to. You see, the realization that God has placed man here on earth and he has given man freedom to live whatever life he chooses. However, God warns against the man doing so and he gives man laws, because should a man live his own life, it will be detrimental to his own life and health. And so God already recognizes and he gives law. However, he does not force anyone to live under his law. People can, with a God-given brain, think against God. God allows them to do that. So people can go anywhere. God does not stop them. People can live anywhere. They can immigrate. They can move to a country and start speaking the politics there. That's what our black brothers and sisters who were taken by slavery are currently doing in the United States. They're talking about the country where they were born, the country where they live, the only country that they know. However, there's a camp of white people there who are telling them that you do not belong here. You cannot say anything over here. And I want at this moment in time for you to see yourself eye to eye with a white racist in the United States. This man sees his supremacy over this black one who is talking. South Africans, xenophobics, have this attitude, exact white man's racist attitude. Xenophobics have the exact same mindset when they are looking at people from other countries, black people. They're always looking for their slight superiority. I'm South African. You see, the richest market in Africa. I am that black person. You just so happen to be born a lesser. So if we're going to call racists to stop, I need to ask you to stop, my brother. Yeah, let Mighty do his thing. He's very good at it. Your South Africans is sleeping and he should move on this opportunity and he should speak on these issues. You see, Clement Manyatela, man, can't have the whole market share, can't have every ear. Isn't Clement Manyatela on DSTV or something? Shouldn't you have a dish to tap into that? Or maybe he's also on YouTube. But hey, man, the more the merrier. What's wrong? What's wrong with allies? What's wrong with support? So we are going back into the video. We are listening to the straw man argument. Mighty is talking about Ronaldo and he has standing. He can do that. If anybody is going to rise with xenophobic things against Mighty, you're going to find that I'm his ally. I'm a South African and I will stand against you. Thank you.
Grand Theft Auto is a video game that's quite popular. If someone were to argue against the video game and say, games like Grand Theft Auto normalize violence, they normalize the degradation of women, and they should not be played by teenagers and not be played by children who do not have an adequate appreciation of concepts such as consent and who are easily impressionable because their frontal lobes have not fully developed. If they were to say they don't like these games because the protagonists advance through the video game by committing heinous acts of violence as individuals and in gangs, and it's an endorsement tacitly of that kind of behavior, and they argue that such role-playing, especially by young people, right, which requires them to make those decisions actively to participate in heinous acts of crime to advance in the game is harmful. If someone argued this, and then you respond as a proponent of Grand Theft Auto 4 or 5, 6 or whatever, you respond by saying, are you saying that video games are causing shootings, mass shootings? There were shootings in America before video games such as Grand Theft Auto existed. This is the problem with these woke people. They're trying to take away our fun. They're trying to impose their morality on everyone. Let boys be boys and let them play Grand Theft Auto 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 till infinity.
This is the anti-gun argument. When there's a mass shooting, those who say we can help stop this situation by not having people, everyday citizens, own automatic rifles. There are people who rise and say, there's tyranny. The government might become too powerful. So we need to arm ourselves in case the government flips. But look at currently how much people actually love their government and how crazy and tyrannical it's becoming. In the US, people love Trump's tyranny over others. The tyranny that they are talking about, their supposed ghost that may come and rip them out of the bed, so you need to have an AR-15 on the headboard. That tyranny is a fallacy. It's a distraction from the fact that AR-15s mow down a lot of school kids or LGBTQ people in their club when a lone wolf, white terrorist, decides to go out and spray people with a machine gun. Instead of addressing the possibility of getting rid of AR-15s in the hands of citizens who can go crazy, people say, no, there's a great big ghost who might come, and that ghost may be a tyrannical government. But then look how much support Trump is getting as a tyrant, a man who's turning out to be a dictator, ally of Vladimir Putin. He likes Vladimir Putin's style. He likes leaders who don't leave. And he's attempting that. Hey, watch out for Trump.
If that's the response you give, minus or with the accent, doesn't really matter. I don't know why I chose that one, right? If that's the response you gave, you have not quite engaged with the heart of the argument made by your opponent. You have reconstructed their argument in a manner which suits your ends. This fallacy, though, can be very effective with complex topics, with fast-moving topics, with complicated topics, because the audience is not always familiar with the fact, always paying attention to where your arguments are coming from. So if you look at the Rob Hersov conversation, it's very clear that Dave Rubin has not familiarized himself with the legislation in South Africa. He doesn't know the Expropriation Act. He doesn't know those dynamics. If this was a conversation that he was having with Mehdi Hassan, for instance, maybe Mehdi Hassan would have done a better job, because he does sometimes pay attention to the information, the current affairs and the events happening in African countries. He did an excellent interview with Baleka Mbete at some point, did another one with a Kenyan leader recently.
So Rob Hersov, whom Mighty cited as apparently being a member of the right-wing media that is creating a narrative, has gone and spoken on a podcast with a right-wing platform.
What were those three words? It was expropriation
without compensation.
So this is in essence, they're taking farms.
Well, they can.
Yeah.
So they haven't implemented yet.
Now, this tweet has caused all kinds of consternation, people freaking out already. News 24 carrying fairy tale stories that Trump is lying about what's going on in South Africa. No, he's not lying about what's going on. Land is being occupied by people illegally, and that is confiscation.
Land is being occupied by people illegally, and that is confiscation.
Confiscation isn't simply the government taking your land. Others can confiscate your land. And that's what Trump is talking about.
So they haven't implemented yet. It's been signed into law.
Yeah.
Land is being occupied by people illegally.
And it's not just farmland, it's property. They can take the watch off my arm and they barely need to justify it. I mean, I liken it to having a loaded gun in the bedroom with kids running around. At some point, somebody's going to pull the trigger. And that's what this law is. And there's so many other laws in South Africa that are anti-white, race-based, and make it almost impossible for businesses to thrive. But worst of all, we're at less than 1% economic growth, less than 1%. And we have the highest unemployment in the world.
That's
it's
not sustainable.
40%. It's unsustainable.
So it's an audience that wants to hear what he's currently wanting to speak. That's the coordinated effort that Mighty is talking about. You create a message here that already has ears waiting. There's an establishment that has said, yo, bring us some dirt on South Africa. And Rob Hersov and his friends have gone and created a website with 142 laws. And by the way, this video by Mighty actually goes into those laws. And what exactly is a counter argument to this propaganda being created by the people that he lists? So go and check out the video. I think we should be concluding right now. Perhaps there's one more, two more fallacies remaining, then we'll be out of here.
So Mehdi Hassan would have been a little bit better, but you can quickly strawman somebody or strawman argue against a journalist who doesn't know the topic. And this is what Rob Hersov was doing. There's another fallacy which they use, the fallacy of equivocation. In the fallacy of equivocation, the arguer uses the meanings of words and concepts differently and shifts from one to another with the purpose of creating an impression that those things are the same. Let me give you just a funny example, right? For example, if I were to say or make the following argument, if I were to say the following, power tends to corrupt. Knowledge is power. Knowledge tends to corrupt. Therefore, let us remain ignorant and not corrupt. Think about what I've done. I've said power tends to corrupt. Knowledge is power. Therefore, knowledge tends to corrupt. So isn't it better for us to remain ignorant? Then we won't be corrupt. Hey, in that fallacy, I've equivocated, right? The power in the first premise, the first statement, that power tends to corrupt, is political or economic power. It is power that allows you to have direct control over people because you employ them, because you can direct them, such as an army, etc. So it's power and authority which comes from being in senior positions such as CEO, president, minister. In the second statement, knowledge is power, right? It's not the same power as the previous statement, right? The knowledge is power statement is a condensation of the idea that through reading, through research, through discovery, through experimentation, we can advance humanity in interesting ways. For instance, if you think about the discovery of penicillin or the development of fertilizers or various developments which led to various technological advancements, a lot of them had eureka in them, right? Someone discovers something like, isn't this cool? Can we use this here? Can we use that there? That's the power that knowledge provides. But it's not the same power as the power that is referred to when they say power tends to corrupt. The power of knowledge is not the same thing as the power of the gun or the power of the purse. If I attempted to punch Mike Tyson because I have read books like Informal Logic by Professor Copy, hey, there would be an after tears party for me at my home. For those of you who don't know, after tears is a party that is held in some families after a funeral. It's a coping mechanism, really, when you think about it. It's one that I don't support, though. People get drunk after the funeral, and it's just a mess. They'll dance, etc. Let me tell you something. The day I die, I want 7 days of mourning, not 7 days of drinking. I promise you, I will get a heavenly visa to haunt people if there's ever an after tears connected to my demise, my transcendent to the ancestral plane. I'll be there, Wakanda forever. After tears. No, I need to go back. I need to go back and dish out some pamas there. Anyway, back to...
Yeah, anyway, man, let me leave it right there. Hey, you're mighty. Make sure to that astral plane, Wakanda, ascending to the ascended masters and ancestral plane, whatever, man. Be careful with that on your mouth, man. We all know that comes from a movie, but that has tie-ins to actual spiritual practices that people are pursuing, and those are demonic. You need a demon to help you astral project, because astral projection, that traveling, that's how demons walk. You see, demons don't take step as they travel. They're able to move across great distances in amazingly short time. They live in a place that has no barriers in an infinite space. So they require that speed to perform their job and be on their agenda to end God's earth. So they can help a human being walk at those great speeds. And those are, of course, demonic pursuits. Wanting to live in the supernatural while God has made you mortal. When we die, my brother, we wait for judgment. There's no coming back and what so forth. So let's get back to Christ with our mouths in every way that we can, especially with such big platforms, man. I support you. I stand behind you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me see you next time. Subscribe, like, share, and comment. Go check out Mighty Jamie's video and learn more about fallacies and twisted arguments as we prepare to have Renaldo Gouws and the right-wing people integrated into this side of the black people so they can tell us these things that they're telling the Americans. Because you can tell right now that the Cape Town media establishment is not talking to us. They're talking to Trump about us. They're not asking us to vouch for their story. They know there's no evidence of the things that they're saying. And so it's a strange thing right now. The mainstream media is being called the mainstream media. Now, all of a sudden, we were starting to have those terms where some people are being given a term. They are the mainstream media, and mainstream equals constantly lying. However, the right-wingers who are currently lying are the ones telling the truth. People who never speak to their broader South African demographic, who just speak to a narrow minority and their relatives out in the United States, those people are saying that they are truthful. So let's find out what fallacies and what serpentine debate bro tricks are as we seek to find the truth and speak it and communicate it with the people on the other side. I'll see you next time.